too early in the morning to film. I'm going goofy. How in the world would you pick a menstrual cup size when you have this many choices? It seems impossible, but I'm here to help. Hi, and welcome to Period Nirvana, your home for all things menstrual cup and disc information, and the place where you can take the menstrual cup and disc quiz, and that's on periodnirvana.com. I'm your host on this weird part of the internet, Kim Rosas, and everything I do all day long is menstrual cup education. I also started a shop in 2020 called Period.Shop. That's the URL, and you can find a curated selection of trusted products there. So if you're shopping, make sure to check it out. New here? Hit that subscribe button. Here is a quick primer about menstrual cups before we get into how to pick the right size. Menstrual cups sit in the vaginal canal and they sit below the cervix. They make a seal inside the vaginal canal, and assuming all goes well, it is leak-proof and completely comfortable and undetectable. That's why it's so important to pick the right size for you. For a complete overview of how cups work, you can visit my Everything You Need to Know video. Menstrual cups most often come in two sizes, a small and a large, but that's not always the case. Sometimes they have 3, 4, one brand even has 10 sizes, which makes it extremely confusing for you, who is probably completely new to the concept on knowing which is going to be the right fit for your body. Brands do offer some guidelines, but as we all know, guidelines are guidelines, they're not rules. So I'm going to walk you through some of the things to look for when picking the right size, things you need to ask yourself, and give you basically the easiest possible solution, which is to take the quiz on periodnirvana.com. But it is important to understand the whys behind some of the questions. So if you are taking the quiz and using it to help pick your right cup, it will give you an understanding of why I ask the questions I do, and it'll help you know how to better answer those questions for the most accurate result you could possibly get. When I say that menstrual cups come in different sizes, what I mean is that they are sized by diameter only. So when you're thinking about buying a cup, when they say pick a small or a large, or a 1 or a 2, or an A or a B, or in an alternate universe, a B or an A, B being the smaller, I don't know. It's the Wild West out there for menstrual cup sizing and naming. That's why it's so confusing. But they do strictly refer to sizing in diameter only, diameter being how wide the rim is. So a smaller cup, a 1, an A, a small, is going to be a smaller diameter than a larger cup. Other attributes will also scale up with that diameter, but not always. Some of the cups have the same length of the small and the large, but the diameter has changed. So that is why it is just easier to take the quiz on periodnirvana.com, because it asks about cervical height and all the things that you need to know to match you not only to the right diameter cup, but also length and firmness and all that. For the cup to stay in place, it has to have two things. It needs to be suctioned and sealed, so it stays in place partly through suction, and then it also needs to be the proper diameter to be held in place. So here is the model, and it should be completely open and placed below the cervix. And if it's the right size for you, you will not feel it, and it will stay in place all day. If it is too small for you, what can often happen is as you move, it will kind of walk down, and you'll start feeling not only the stem, but you'll start feeling the base. And what this turns into is essentially like crowning, or if you have had to go to the bathroom real bad, something like turtling, where you kind of just feel something right there at the entrance, and it's very uncomfortable. There are guidelines out there, and so if you were just looking on the shelf and looking at a menstrual cup box and reading the guidelines, it will say if you are over 30 and you have given birth, then you're probably a size 2. Under 30 have not given birth, you're probably a size 1 or a small. And first, let me clarify what they mean by giving birth, because often this is misunderstood. When a brand says given birth, what they mean is a full-term pregnancy, so 37 weeks or above. And I prefer to say full-term pregnancy because not everyone who has been pregnant and had a baby has a baby. Or not everyone who has gone full-term came home with a baby for whatever reason. So I prefer to say full-term pregnancy. That just lets you know that 37 weeks and above, you're probably in the size 2 territory. And again, going back to the word given birth, this is also misunderstood. it means cesarean or vaginal delivery. So when they say that you've given birth, it doesn't mean only vaginal delivery and that you are a larger size because you shot a baby out of your baby cannon and it widened your vaginal canal. The vagina is designed to do that, and it's going to go back to its original size. What it means when it says full-term pregnancy, or when I say full-term pregnancy, is that the muscles themselves have been relaxed through pregnancy, through preparation for labor. That relaxes the pelvic floor muscles. And so what was a tighter set of muscles is now a little bit less tight, not in some sort of very disturbing way. It's just the way it works. So before having a pregnancy, you might have fit a size 1 or a small better. Now a size 2 or a regular or large is going to stay in place better for you with those more relaxed muscles. Same story for when you're around over 30. Now, this is not a magic line. It doesn't mean when you turn 30, you immediately have to switch to a size large cup if you're using a cup before. Chances are you're not going to notice any sort of immediate difference. It just means over time, as you age, those muscles weaken as well. And so when you were younger using a cup, a size small fit well, and over time you may notice it's not staying in place as well. Eventually, you're probably going to want to move to a size 2 because those muscles have relaxed, letting the cup have a little more space to move down during your everyday movements. There is more to the story. So it's not just about if you're over 30 or if you've had a baby. There is another thing at play because as I keep talking about muscle toneness and pelvic floor toneness, muscles can be worked and toned. So if you're someone who is very physically active, who does a lot of activity, who does a lot of exercising, that would tone the pelvic floor and keep it nice and tight, then you might still be a candidate for a size small cup. And this also opens up the door to what firmnesses you need, and that is a whole other video. But typically, if you're more physically active, a firmer cup is going to stay in place better against that muscle movement that you have developed, where it's a stronger muscle, so it's going to push harder against the cup. It means you probably want a firmer cup. So if you're someone who can lift a canoe with your vagina and you're 45 years old, you still probably fit the size small. If you've had pelvic floor therapy, the same rationale applies to you. More than likely, a size small will work for you, but you may still find that a size 2 feels good to you. These are just guidelines, and I think that with the diameters being so minimal of a difference, if you feel like you're just right on the fence and you think, okay, well, I'm pretty active, but I'm also 45 and I've had 3 kids, I'm not sure which one. Probably just size up because your body is accommodating your vaginal muscles. Your vaginal canal is meant to stretch. It's meant to accommodate things of various diameters. Wink, wink. And also, it is biologically designed to make room for a giant baby head coming out. Whether that happens for you or not, whether you want it or not, it's what your body was meant for. So just know that sizing up is probably a good option. Now let's kind of go through some of the questions that I ask you on the quiz and help you understand those. And you can ask those yourself if you just want to make a decision not using the quiz. You can just look at the brands and decide what looks like a good fit and pick from one of their sizes, asking these questions to yourself. Are you under 17? Yes or no? If you are under 17, are you nervous about trying a cup for the first time? Are you anxious about inserting something into your body because either you've never used a tampon before or you've never inserted anything into your body before? If that's the case and you want to try a cup, you probably want one of the teen-sized cups. A teen or a starter-sized cup like Saltine or Organicup Mini. These are designed to be very petite. They're less intimidating. They're going to be easier to put in because they are so small, and they're just an all-around smaller shape. If you're under 17 and you're thinking to yourself that you're comfortable with cups, you're comfortable with the concept, you don't mind inserting it, you're not nervous about it, or you have a heavier period, you might still want to go ahead and answer on the quiz that you're comfortable with that, and it will match you to one of the size smalls. Or simply just pick a cup in the size small realm because that might be a better option for you. Are you under 30 and you've had no full-term pregnancies? And that's it. If you're under 30, had no full-term pregnancies, chances are you're going to be a size small. That's going to be a good option for you. And that's going to lead you into the wide world of various size smalls. There's tons of them. If you're over 30 and you have or have not, doesn't matter, had a full-term pregnancy, then you do get put into the larger cup category, larger diameter option. And again, that's just kind of where you land. It's not a knock against you. We all age and everything relaxes, our faces, our vaginas. I know, it's so sad, but it's the truth. So yes, over 30, you're going to be in a wider diameter category. Now, on the quiz, I'll also ask about your activity. And so what you should do when you're picking a cup, whether you take the quiz or not, is to ask yourself how active you are and what kinds of exercises you do. Do you feel like these are working your pelvic floor, or is it just simply cardio? So think about that and decide if you are very, very active and you feel like things are really toned, then maybe you will want to go back to a size small. Some of the questions I ask, even if you're over 30 and have had a pregnancy, actually move you back into the small size because of the physical activity you've done or because you've had pelvic floor therapy. I kind of move you back into the small if I feel like what your answer is puts you back into the small. So it's not just an automatic, hey, you're over 30 or you've had a baby, you're size 2 forever and ever. The way I designed the quiz can put you back into that territory. So in life, you are flexible. If you think you need that smaller size because of your activity, put yourself in the smaller size category and pick from one of those smaller sizes. Here's some other scenarios that I get asked all the time about picking a size. What if you are already a cup user and you had a baby recently and your period is back? Do you need to run to the store and buy the size large? You should try what you have at home before spending money because it may still work great for you. You don't need to spend another $30 just because you heard, oh, I had a baby, I'm a size 2. You don't know until you try, especially if you already have it at home. Go ahead and give it a try. If it slips down, then yes, you probably need to size up. One of the other things to consider is that you may just be a petite person. And as much as it's about muscle tone and suction, some people are just built in a narrow way, and a smaller cup is going to feel and fit them better. So I get my favorite comment especially is, oh my God, I'm so little down there. I'm so tight. I get this all the time. And I think some people just truly are, and some people just want other people to know that fact about them. So I don't know if you've commented before here and said you were tiny, tiny, tiny down there, where you fall. But it is my favorite comment because I always read it like, oh my God, I'm so tight down there. It always reads like that to me. So if you are just tight down there, a smaller cup is probably a better solution for you, even if you are over 30 or even if you've had 50 children. The body does magically go back to some degree of where it was. So no matter how many kids you've had, you can still be tight down there. And of course, exercise certainly does help with that. And then the last thing I'll say is that even if you're under 30, you may still be a good candidate for a size large. And it's not because you are loose or that there's something wrong with you. It just sometimes works better for people under 30. I've had lots of messages from people who feel like they are not seen because everyone tells them, hey, you're under 30, you should be using a size small, but they know that a size large works better for them. It's very much a game of finding what works for you, and it's not always going to be the first time you try a cup that it does fit you well, but most often when you try a cup, after trying the first one, whether you use the quiz to find it or not, you can pinpoint what it is about the cup that doesn't feel good for you, whether it is about firmness or length or sizing or capacity. And then you are able to very, very accurately pick your second cup based on all that. And that's where on Period.Nirvana.com we do have a sizing chart where you can sort and look at the different lengths and the diameters and the capacities. And then you can look at what you've tried and find it on the chart and then find what you want elsewhere and see if it's bigger, smaller, whatever you think is going to feel better for you. And that becomes more of an investigation, but it is something that a lot of people do. As I mentioned, there are other things that you need to consider when picking your cup. Very, very, very specifically, the length. If you're someone with a high cervix, you can use the longer cup. If you're someone with a low cervix, you need a shorter cup. These things are very important as well. And so measuring your cervix before you pick a cup or before you take the quiz, either one is important, and you do it on your menstrual cycle. So go ahead and check out the video I have on how to measure your cervix, because we're not going to cover that here today as well. And then the other thing is firmness. Some cups are just firmer than others. So this is firm and this is not. And that comes into play with comfort. It comes into play if you have bladder sensitivities. If you're very active, you typically want a firmer cup. There are so many things to think about. It is quite overwhelming. And as much as I harp on taking the quiz, I do it because I want to help people pick the right cup. And when you have all of these things that you know that you might need to think about, but you don't really know why you need to think about them, it's just easier to let someone like me guide you versus trying to sort it out yourself, unless that's fun for you, because some people do find it fun, and I find it fun, so I totally get that. I know this is a lot, but I think that's it. I think this is going to give you a really good understanding of how to pick your size, even though it is a lot. If you have more questions, I would encourage you to join the group on Facebook called the Period Nirvana Community. You can search that up, or I'll link it in the video description. That's a place where you can ask questions. The quiz is not all knowing. It's good, but it's not perfect. And so you can ask, this is what I got, but maybe you feel like that's not the right cup for you. And the group is full of people who are like me. They really love using menstrual cups and discs, and they're there with their experience to answer your questions. And if you aren't already, make sure you subscribe to this channel for more content like this. You can find me on Instagram at Period Nirvana. I just hit my 10,000 goal, which is a miracle, because the last video I uploaded, I was halfway there. So I don't know how that happened, but yay. And then you can find me on TikTok. I don't even have goals over there anymore. I'm just doing whatever. It's fun. I love it. I post short educational videos there. Leave a comment and let me know about your experience picking a cup. It's always good to see what worked for people and how they picked the size that ultimately worked for them. And you may be helping someone with your comment. So I love that community aspect here on the comments section of YouTube. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye. Ah! Throwing cups. Talked about vaginal size, talked about